A simple hug in a small-town cafe sets off a chain of events that changes the lives of a shy boy, a kind-hearted waitress, and even a billionaire forever. Jonathan Hayes. One of the wealthiest men in the country, rarely had a day off. His life was a whirlwind of board meetings, charity events, and business deals that stretched across continents. But today, he wanted something different. He wanted to step out of his gilded world, if only for a few hours, and experience a place that felt normal, something untouched by wealth and status. That's how he ended up in a small-town cafe tucked away on a quiet street, the kind of place where people greeted each other by name and the aroma of fresh coffee mixed with warm pastries filled the air. His son, Ethan, was sitting at a corner table by the window, staring out at the street as if he were lost in his own thoughts. Ethan was 12, bright and sensitive, but he had always struggled with shyness. Being the son of a billionaire often made him feel different from other kids his age. At school, some students treated him as if he were a celebrity, while others avoided him, assuming his life was too complicated to understand. Today, though, didn't seem to notice anything except the world outside the cafe window. Jonathan watched him quietly from a distance. He didn't want to intrude, not yet. There was a part of him that felt guilty. He'd been so busy building an empire that he sometimes forgot to simply be there for Ethan. Observing him now, seeing the boy's small frame hunched over his milkshake, Jonathan felt a pang of emotion he couldn't easily describe. He wanted to reach out, to make Ethan feel safe. But he also knew his presence alone could make the boy self-conscious. Lily, the waitress, moved through the cafe with a gentle energy that seemed to put everyone at ease. She was in her mid-20s, with a warm smile and an easy laugh that felt genuine, not practiced. As she approached Ethan's table, she noticed the boy fidgeting with his straw, nervously stirring his chocolate milkshake. Most adults might have ignored him, assuming he just wanted to be left alone. But not Lily. She had an instinct for noticing people who seemed lonely or uneasy. "Hi there," she said softly, kneeling slightly so she was closer to his level. "Is everything okay?" Ethan glanced up, startled by the sudden attention. His cheeks flushed, and he mumbled something under his breath. Lily didn't rush him. She simply smiled and waited. After a few seconds, she reached out gently and offered a comforting hug, something simple but full of warmth. Ethan stiffened at first, unsure what to do, then relaxed as he realized the hug wasn't meant to embarrass him. It was meant to make him feel safe. Jonathan's eyes widened as he watched this exchange. In all his years of wealth, power, and influence, he had never seen a gesture so pure and uncomplicated. There were no hidden motives, no expectation of reward, just kindness. He felt an unfamiliar stirring in his chest, a mix of pride and relief, watching someone treat his son with such gentle care. For a moment, he felt invisible, not as a billionaire, but simply as a father watching someone care for his child. Lily stayed with Ethan for a few minutes, chatting quietly and making small talk about things he liked, books, cartoons, and a little comic he had been reading. Jonathan noticed how Ethan's eyes lit up when he spoke about things that excited him. For the first time in a long while, he saw his son smile freely, without self-consciousness or worry. It was a small smile, but to Jonathan, it felt monumental. As if a weight had been lifted from Ethan's shoulders, the cafe around them carried on, bustling with the gentle hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, and the occasional burst of laughter. Jonathan observed the way Lily moved gracefully from table to table, checking on other customers with the same warmth and attentiveness she had shown. Ethan, she seemed to have a gift for connecting with people, for making them feel seen and valued, and Jonathan couldn't help but admire that quality. In a world that often measured people by their wealth, status, or achievements, here was someone whose value was entirely in her heart and her actions. Jonathan felt a strange sense of humility. Despite all his success, all the money and influence he had amassed, he realized that true impact wasn't measured by numbers or deals, but by simple human gestures like this. The hug, the patient listening, the small talk, these were things that changed lives in ways that money never could. He wondered how many people went through life without ever experiencing that kind of genuine attention, and how rare it was to find someone like Lily who gave it so freely. For Ethan, the hug had done more than comfort him in the moment. It made him feel noticed, acknowledged, and cared for in a way he hadn't felt for a long time. He sat a little taller, and when he looked up at Lily, he gave her a shy but sincere smile. It was a small connection, but to him it felt like a bridge to a world where he didn't have to worry about being different or misunderstood. Jonathan, watching this, felt a mixture of gratitude and awe. He silently thanked Lily for her kindness, realizing that she had given his son something far more valuable than anything money could buy: a sense of belonging, even if only for a few minutes. And in that quiet cafe, amidst the ordinary hustle of life, a remarkable moment was unfolding, one that neither Jonathan nor Lily would likely forget. The world outside carried on, but inside that small cafe, a billionaire father observed a simple act of humanity that touched his heart, and a young boy experienced a warmth that made him feel seen. It was an ordinary day by all appearances, yet it held the extraordinary power to change the way Jonathan viewed the world and the way Ethan felt about himself. Jonathan stayed in his seat, quietly observing Lily as she moved through the cafe. It was fascinating to him how someone could touch lives without even realizing it. He noticed the way she remembered customers' names and their favorite drinks. There was a gentle rhythm in her movements, a mix of attentiveness and ease that seemed natural, not forced. Each interaction she had, whether with a regular patron or a newcomer, was filled with warmth and patience. She didn't rush anyone, and she didn't treat anyone as less important. It struck Jonathan that her presence in the cafe was more than just serving coffee. It was about making people feel valued. Ethan, sitting a little more upright, watched Lily with fascination. He had never met anyone like her before. Most adults either ignored him or treated him awkwardly because of his father's wealth. But Lily was different. She didn't know who he was, and it didn't matter to her. She treated him like a regular kid, with kindness and respect. Ethan felt a strange sense of comfort, as though he had found someone in the world who understood him without needing an explanation. His shyness began to fade slightly,
replaced by curiosity and the simple desire to talk. Lily returned to Ethan's table a few minutes later with a small tray of cookies.
"I thought you might like one," she said with a smile. Ethan hesitated for a moment before accepting one. As he took a bite, a genuine smile spread across his face, the kind of smile that reached his eyes. Jonathan's heart swelled as he watched his son experience such simple joy. It reminded him of childhood, of moments when happiness came from the smallest things: a cookie, a smile, a kind word. It was easy to forget in a world dominated by ambition and responsibility. But Lily seemed to bring that simplicity back. If only for a moment, as the cafe continued to fill with people, Jonathan noticed how other patrons responded to Lily. There was an ease in the atmosphere whenever she was nearby. People smiled more freely, laughed more openly, and seemed more relaxed. It was subtle, but the effect was undeniable. She had a way of making everyone around her feel lighter, happier, and more human. Jonathan realized that this was a rare quality, one that money and power could never buy. It was the kind of thing that left a lasting impression, something that could quietly change the mood of a room, even a person's life. Jonathan's thoughts kept drifting back to his own son. Ethan had always been sensitive and reserved, and Jonathan worried about him constantly. He worried that Ethan might feel isolated or misunderstood because of the family's wealth. But now, watching the bond forming between Ethan and Lily, he felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe Ethan could find connection in places that had nothing to do with money or status. Maybe there were people in the world who could see him for who he really was. The idea gave Jonathan a rare sense of relief, as though a burden he hadn't even realized he was carrying had been lifted. Ethan, encouraged by Lily's presence, began to open up. He talked about his favorite books and comics, describing characters and stories with enthusiasm. Lily listened attentively, asking questions and making comments that showed she genuinely cared. For the first time in a long while, Ethan didn't feel the need to hide or be cautious. He laughed at small jokes and even shared a funny story about his school day. Jonathan couldn't help but smile as he watched this transformation. It was a reminder that connection and empathy could have a profound impact, even on someone as reserved as his son. Lily's attention never felt intrusive or overwhelming. She gave Ethan space when he needed it, and she engaged when he was ready. Jonathan noticed the careful balance she maintained. It wasn't something she had learned from books or training. It was natural. Her kindness wasn't performative. She didn't seek recognition or reward. She simply acted in the moment, guided by genuine care and compassion. Jonathan found himself studying her closely, wondering how someone like her existed in a world where people often prioritize status, money, and personal gain above all else. As the minutes passed, Jonathan realized he had been sitting quietly for longer than he intended. He had come to the cafe to escape his busy life, but instead, he had stumbled upon a moment that felt profoundly meaningful. Observing Lily and Ethan, he recognized something powerful. Small acts of kindness could leave lasting impressions. A hug, a smile, or even a patient conversation could transform someone's day or even their outlook on life. It was a lesson he hadn't learned in boardrooms or during negotiations, but one he knew would stay with him. The cafe continued to bustle, yet within their small corner, there was a sense of calm. Jonathan noticed that Ethan had grown more confident, sitting taller and speaking more freely. Lily had a subtle but undeniable effect on him, making him feel safe and valued. Jonathan was reminded that the most meaningful connections weren't built on wealth or privilege. They were built on empathy, trust, and genuine care. Watching his son experience this was both comforting and inspiring. When Lily finally returned to Jonathan to clear a few dishes, their eyes met briefly. Jonathan offered a polite nod, acknowledging her without revealing who he was. Lily smiled back warmly, still unaware of the man she had just impressed. That small exchange, though simple, left Jonathan feeling a sense of admiration that went beyond words. He realized that Lily's impact on his son and the cafe went far deeper than he could articulate. It was a quiet, transformative presence that mattered more than anything money could buy. Ethan's laughter continued to echo softly in the corner as he engaged with Lily, and Jonathan felt a mix of gratitude and awe. He thought about how rare it was to find someone whose actions were motivated purely by kindness. In that moment, he decided to pay attention, to see if this connection could develop into something meaningful, not just for Ethan, but for everyone involved. The cafe, the chocolate milkshake, and the warmth of a simple hug had created a moment that would linger in Jonathan's mind for a long time, one that reminded him of the extraordinary power of ordinary human kindness. By the time Jonathan finally rose to leave, it felt changed. Watching Lily interact with Ethan had given him a new perspective on life, on relationships, and on the kind of values that truly mattered. He realized that success wasn't just about wealth or power. It was about recognizing and nurturing the good in people. And in that small cafe, amid laughter, conversation, and the aroma of coffee, Jonathan saw a glimpse of something rare and beautiful. A moment where empathy and humanity could transform even the smallest corner of the world. Jonathan couldn't stop thinking about Lily even after leaving the cafe. There was something about her that lingered in his mind, not her beauty or charm, though she had plenty, but the quiet way she treated people, the care in her gestures, and the warmth in her presence. Most people in Jonathan's world were either ambitious, self-serving, or polite out of obligation. But Lily was different. She had an authenticity that made Jonathan want to know her better, not in a romantic way, but as someone whose values and heart could genuinely influence his son. A few days later, Jonathan decided to return to the cafe. He wanted to see Lily again, to understand more about the person who had impacted his son so profoundly. As he entered, he noticed her immediately. She moved behind the counter, taking orders, serving coffee, and chatting with customers in the same warm and patient way he had admired before. He also noticed how she remembered details about people's lives, like the regular, who always ordered a black coffee and read the newspaper, or the elderly couple who came in every Thursday for a slice of pie. Everything she did was done with care. And Jonathan realized that her kindness wasn't random, it was consistent. He watched as she approached Ethan, who was sitting quietly at their usual corner table. "Hey, Ethan, how's the comic coming along?" she asked cheerfully, kneeling slightly to get closer. Ethan looked up, his face lighting up immediately. The way Lily remembered his small interests made him feel important. Jonathan smiled from a distance, amazed at how someone could make a child feel so valued without any agenda. After her shift, Jonathan found a moment to speak to Lily. He approached her casually, careful not to overwhelm her. "Hi," he said softly. "I'm Jonathan Hayes." Lily's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of recognition in them, though she didn't immediately connect the name with the billionaire she might have heard about. "Hi," she replied politely. "It's nice to meet you." Jonathan hesitated for a moment, trying to figure out how to start without making her uncomfortable. Then he spoke honestly. "I've been watching you interact with my son. I just wanted to say thank you for being kind, for being genuine. It means a lot." Lily blinked, clearly a little surprised. She wasn't used to being acknowledged in this way, especially not by someone like him. "Oh, thank you," she murmured, unsure of how to respond. She wasn't used to receiving praise, especially for something that felt natural to her. Jonathan could see the mix of humility and caution in her expression. He smiled reassuringly. "You don't have to say much. I just wanted you to know that your kindness hasn't gone unnoticed." He paused, thinking carefully. He didn't want to overwhelm her, but he wanted to understand her life better. "Can I ask you something?" he said gently. "What made you so patient, so caring? Not many people, in my world at least, act the way you do." Lily looked down for a moment, then spoke softly. "I guess I've had to take care of people. My younger siblings, mostly. Life hasn't been easy for my family. I had to grow up fast. I learned that small gestures make a big difference. A hug, a kind word. It can change someone's day, sometimes even their life. That's just what I try to do." Jonathan listened intently, moved by her words. He realized that her kindness came from experience, from real challenges, from a place of empathy. She wasn't acting, it was who she was. As she spoke, Jonathan felt a deep respect for her. He had spent decades building wealth, running companies, and managing reputations. But he realized that none of that compared to the strength and heart of someone like Lily. She had faced struggles, worked tirelessly, and still found the energy to care for others. Her resilience impressed him deeply. He wondered how many people in the world could maintain such grace under pressure. Curious to know more, he asked gently about her dreams. "Do you want to continue in this line of work?" he asked. Lily smiled faintly. "I like helping people, but I also want to finish my education. I'm studying part-time while working here. I want to become a nurse someday, help people in a bigger way. Money is always tight, and I have my siblings to support." She shrugged, a small, resigned gesture. Jonathan's heart went out to her. Here was someone with ambition, kindness, and responsibility. Yet life had made her path difficult. He realized that he had the power to help her in a way few could. But he didn't want to offer charity carelessly. He wanted her to feel respected and empowered. Jonathan thought about Ethan again, and how much Lily had positively affected him. If someone like her could influence his son's life so meaningfully, perhaps he could create an opportunity for her too. Something that wasn't just money, but a chance to achieve her dreams, while continuing to be the person she naturally was. Over the next few days, Jonathan observed Lily more, sometimes in the cafe, sometimes learning about her life through casual conversation. He discovered that she worked long hours, often skipping breaks, to make ends meet. She managed her responsibilities at home, helping her siblings with schoolwork and chores. Despite everything, she remained cheerful and patient, treating everyone with respect and care. Jonathan found himself admiring her more with each passing observation. She was genuine, resilient, and selfless, a rare combination. Jonathan also began reflecting on his own life. He realized that he had focused so much on success, recognition, and wealth that he had often overlooked the simpler, more human aspects of life. Watching Lily interact with people reminded him of the importance of empathy, patience, and connection. He thought about how people in his world often underestimated these qualities, valuing only money, power, and influence. And yet here was Lily, showing every day that real impact came from compassion and integrity. One afternoon, he decided to sit with Lily briefly after her shift. They talked quietly in the back of the cafe, away from other customers. Jonathan asked about her schooling, her dreams, and her struggles. She spoke honestly, with humility and a quiet determination. Jonathan listened, fascinated by her perspective, impressed by her courage, and deeply moved by her selflessness. She spoke of challenges with a calm determination, never complaining. Always focusing on solutions, Ethan joined them at the table, shyly but smiling. Feeling comfortable enough to talk freely in Lily's presence, the three of them shared a small, easy conversation, with Ethan excitedly explaining a new comic he had discovered and Lily laughing along with him. Jonathan observed quietly, feeling a rare peace. For the first time in a long time, he saw his son connect with someone who didn't care about wealth, status, or reputation. Someone who genuinely valued him as a person. Jonathan realized that Lily's influence extended beyond his son. She had a subtle way of transforming the energy around her, of making people feel safe, seen, and appreciated. He wondered how many lives she had touched without even realizing it. He felt an urgent desire to help her, not because she asked for it, not even because she needed it, but because he recognized her potential and her heart. She deserved opportunities that matched her character, and he wanted to be the one to offer them. That evening, as he left the cafe, Jonathan felt a mix of admiration, curiosity, and hope. He didn't know exactly how, but he decided that he wanted to help Lily achieve her dreams. She had become someone he deeply respected, not for status or appearance, but for the quiet strength, empathy, and integrity she displayed every day. Watching her interact with Ethan had been transformative, reminding him of what truly mattered in life. He thought about how extraordinary it was to find someone like Lily in a world filled with ambition and ego. She remained humble, kind, and selfless. Jonathan knew that connecting with people like her could change not only his son's life, but perhaps even his own. He felt inspired to ensure that her path wasn't limited by circumstances, that her efforts, dreams, and kindness could be rewarded in a meaningful way. Jonathan also recognized a profound truth. The world often overlooked people like Lily, yet they were the ones who made it brighter, kinder, and more human. And he decided, silently but firmly, that he would find a way to show her that her efforts mattered, that her heart mattered, and that her dreams could become reality. The next step, he realized, would require courage and careful planning, because this was not about money alone. It was about respect, opportunity, and the chance to truly honor someone's character. In that moment, Jonathan felt a rare combination of excitement and humility. He had seen the impact of kindness, patience, and empathy firsthand, and he wanted to nurture it not just for Ethan but for Lily, and perhaps in the long run, is for others whose lives she could touch. He left the cafe that day with a quiet determination to create an opportunity that would be life-changing, respectful, and deserved. Jonathan spent the next few days thinking carefully about how to approach Lily without overwhelming her or making her feel uncomfortable. He wanted to offer help in a way that honored her independence, her dreams, and her kindness. It wasn't enough to simply write a check or offer money. He wanted her to feel respected and to see this as an opportunity for growth, not charity. After much consideration, he arranged a quiet meeting at the cafe, choosing a time when it was empty so the conversation could be private. Lily was surprised when Jonathan approached her, a mixture of curiosity and caution in her eyes. "Hi, Lily," he said warmly. "Do you have a few minutes to sit down?" She nodded, feeling slightly nervous, but also intrigued. She had no idea what to expect. Jonathan gestured toward a small table in the corner, and they sat across from each other. For a moment, there was a comfortable silence. Jonathan wanted her to feel at ease, so he started casually, talking about Ethan and how much her kindness had meant to him. "I've been thinking a lot about how you've interacted with my son," Jonathan began. "He's shy, and he struggles to open up sometimes. But with you, he feels safe. You make him feel normal. That's rare, and it's something I can't thank you enough for." Lily looked down, a small smile on her face, unsure how to respond. I I just try to be kind, she said softly. Jonathan nodded, appreciating her humility. And that kindness has real value, he replied. More than you might realize. Then Jonathan shifted gently to the main reason he wanted to meet with her. Lily, he said carefully, I know you're working hard to support your family and pursue your education. I also know how much effort you put into caring for others. I want to help you achieve your dreams. Not as charity, but as an opportunity. Would you consider a scholarship to finish your education? And beyond that, a mentorship in one of my philanthropic projects? I believe your character, your empathy, and your resilience are exactly what can make a real difference. Lily blinked, completely stunned. Her mind raced, unable to process the offer immediately. She had worked so hard, day after day, worrying about bills, siblings, and school, that the idea of someone offering this kind of support felt almost unreal. I don't know what to say, she stammered, her voice shaking slightly. Why would you? Why would you do this for me? Jonathan smiled gently. Because you deserve it. You've shown a kind of strength and compassion that's rare. I want to see you succeed, not just for yourself, but because the world needs people like you. For a few moments, Lily sat silently, thinking. She had dreamed of finishing her education, of becoming a nurse, of helping people in meaningful ways, but she had never imagined that someone would offer to remove the financial burden and mentor her personally. She felt a whirlwind of emotions, gratitude, disbelief, nervousness, and even a little fear of not living up to the opportunity. Jonathan noticed her hesitation and spoke softly. Take your time. You don't have to answer right now, but I want you to know that I believe in you, and I'd like to invest in your future. Ethan, who had been quietly watching nearby, spoke up shyly. You should do it, Lily, he said. You've been so nice to me. You help me feel happy. I think you should say yes. His simple, heartfelt words touched Lily deeply. She looked at him and then back at Jonathan, feeling the warmth and sincerity in their eyes. It was not just an offer of money or opportunity. It was a recognition of her worth, her effort, and her character. She finally nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Okay, I'll do it. Thank you, she whispered. Jonathan reached across the table and shook her hand warmly, careful not to make her feel patronized. You're welcome, Lily, and I promise this is just the beginning. We'll work together to make sure you have the support, guidance, and experience to reach your goals. Over the next hour, they discussed the practical details, how the scholarship would cover her tuition, books, and living expenses, and how the mentorship program would give her real-world experience in helping people, managing projects, and making a positive impact in the community. As they talked, Jonathan was struck by Lily's humility and determination. Even with this incredible opportunity in front of her, she asked questions about expectations, responsibilities, and how she could make a meaningful contribution. She didn't simply accept the gift, she wanted to understand how she could grow, how she could use it responsibly, and how she could continue to help others. Jonathan admired her more with every word. She was motivated not by money, not by status, but by purpose. The conversation also allowed Jonathan to share some insights about life and responsibility, carefully guiding Lily without being overbearing. He explained that wealth and opportunity could open doors, but character and effort determined how far one could go. You have both, he said sincerely. You have the heart and the resilience. All you need is the chance to prove it, and I want to give you that chance. Lily listened attentively, inspired and motivated by his words. For the first time in years, she felt that her hard work and dedication had been recognized in a way that truly mattered. When the meeting concluded, Lily left the cafe feeling a mixture of disbelief, gratitude, and excitement. She couldn't stop smiling, thinking about how her life might change in the coming months. The scholarship meant she could focus fully on her studies, and the mentorship meant she could gain experience and grow her skills in ways she had only dreamed of. But more importantly, she felt seen and valued not just as a worker or a student, but as a person with talent, integrity, and a big heart. Jonathan watched her leave, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and hope. He realized that this was more than an act of generosity, was a chance to make a real, lasting impact. He thought about how small gestures could ripple outward. Lily's influence on Ethan, her growing confidence, and the future help she could provide to others through her career. This was how change started, he reflected. Not through grand announcements or public recognition, but through quiet, deliberate acts that honored people's worth. Over the next few weeks, Lily began her new journey. She enrolled full-time in her classes, supported by the scholarship, started participating in Jonathan's mentorship program. At first, she was nervous and unsure, feeling the weight of responsibility. But Jonathan and his team guided her patiently, providing support and encouragement while allowing her to maintain her independence and agency. Lily quickly proved herself capable, thoughtful, and compassionate. Earning the respect and admiration of everyone she worked with, Ethan continued to spend time with her as well, often joining in discussions or projects. He was delighted to see Lily thriving and more confident than ever. For him, it was inspiring to watch someone grow and be recognized for their goodness. He had learned a valuable lesson from her, that kindness, patience, and empathy could open doors and transform lives in ways that power and money alone could not. Jonathan watched this transformation quietly but proudly. Lily's growth reflected not just her own efforts but the potential for human goodness to be recognized and nurtured. He felt that his decision to intervene in her life had been one of the most meaningful he had ever made. The bond forming between them, and between Lily and Ethan, was authentic, genuine, and built on mutual respect. It was a reminder that real wealth in life was not measured in dollars, but in impact, trust, and the ability to uplift others. By the end of the first month, Lily had settled into her new routine, balancing her studies, mentorship, and responsibilities at home with growing confidence and determination. Jonathan continued to watch her progress, sometimes discreetly, sometimes sharing quiet conversations to provide guidance and encouragement. It was clear that this opportunity had ignited something within her, a sense of purpose, a realization that her effort and kindness were not only valuable, but capable of creating significant change. Jonathan also realized that Lily's story was a lesson. For him and Ethan, it was a lesson about humility, patience, and the profound effects of genuine human connection. He understood that acts of kindness, no matter how small, could shape lives, inspire confidence, and bring hope to those who needed it most. And in Lily, he had found someone whose life, once struggling, was now opening toward a future full of promise. Thanks to her courage, integrity, and the willingness to accept a helping hand when it was offered in respect and trust. Lily's life began to change in ways she had never imagined. The scholarship allowed her to fully focus on her studies without the constant worry of how she would pay tuition or cover basic expenses. For the first time in years, she could breathe, knowing that the weight of financial struggle was no longer crushing her every decision. But more than the money, it was the recognition and belief that Jonathan had shown that made the biggest difference. She had been working hard all her life, quietly sacrificing her own comfort for her family and others. And finally, someone had seen her, not just her work, but her character, her persistence, and her heart. Ethan continued to thrive alongside her. He was now more open and confident, smiling more freely and talking about things he had previously kept to himself. He looked forward to their conversations, to the small jokes they shared, and to the time spent together. Lily had become more than a friend or mentor. She was a figure of comfort and encouragement, someone who made him feel safe and valued in a world that often seemed complicated and intimidating. Jonathan observed their growing bond with quiet pride. It reminded him that the simplest gestures, kindness, attention, and care could leave the deepest impact on a young mind. Lily's involvement in Jonathan's mentorship program opened new doors. She was introduced to projects that focused on helping underserved communities, organizing health camps, and leading small initiatives that required both organization and empathy. At first, she felt nervous, questioning whether she was capable of handling such responsibilities. But with Jonathan's guidance and the trust he placed in her, she gradually realized that she not only had the skills, but also the heart to succeed. Her natural ability to connect with people and her patience proved invaluable. The same qualities that had comforted Ethan now allowed her to make a difference in the lives of others. As she gained experience, Lily's confidence grew. She no longer hesitated to speak up in meetings or share her ideas. She became an inspiration for others in the program, showing that genuine care and dedication could lead to meaningful results. She worked long hours, but now it was fueled by passion rather than obligation. The spark in her eyes, the determination in her voice, and the gentle way she led others did not go unnoticed. Jonathan watched her progress with a sense of satisfaction and awe. He realized that he had not only helped her life change, but had also witnessed someone blossom into the person she was always meant to become. At home, Lily's family noticed the changes as well. Her younger siblings saw her coming home happier and more confident. She was able to spend time with them, help with schoolwork, still manage her responsibilities without the constant exhaustion that had previously weighed her down. Her parents, proud and relieved, finally had a glimpse of the potential that had always existed within their daughter. Lily felt a sense of balance that she had never known before. The ability to pursue her dreams while still nurturing the people she loved. Ethan continued to be inspired by her journey. He admired her resilience, her commitment to her goals, and the way she treated others with respect and empathy. He began to adopt some of her confidence and openness, realizing that courage and kindness could coexist. Watching her succeed gave him hope for his own future, showing him that determination and heart could overcome challenges, no matter how daunting they seemed. Jonathan observed this quietly, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The choice to step in and support Lily had impacted not only her life, but also his. Sons in profound ways. Lily's success was not without challenges. There were moments of doubt, days when the workload felt overwhelming, and times when she questioned her abilities. But Jonathan's mentorship, combined with her own determination, helped her navigate these obstacles. Each challenge she overcame reinforced her confidence and resilience. She learned to trust her judgment, to balance compassion with decisiveness, and to approach problems with creativity and patience. These lessons were not just practical skills. They were life skills that would serve her for years to come. Over time, mentorship program allowed Lily to take on leadership roles. She started to mentor others who were in situations similar to the one she had faced, showing them that opportunities were possible if they were willing to work hard and embrace guidance. She became a beacon of hope and inspiration, someone whose life story proved that circumstances did not have to define one's future. Jonathan saw this as the fulfillment of what he had hoped to achieve, empowering someone whose heart and character deserved recognition and opportunity. The bond between Jonathan, Lily, and Ethan deepened. It was a relationship built not on money or hierarchy, but on trust, respect, and shared experience. Jonathan saw Lily's influence on Ethan as invaluable. She helped him navigate childhood challenges, build confidence, and understand the value of kindness. In turn, Ethan's openness and joy reminded Lily why her efforts mattered and gave her a renewed sense of purpose. Jonathan felt that he had witnessed something rare, a genuine, transformative connection between people from very different worlds, united by compassion and understanding. Months passed, and Lily's life continued to flourish. She graduated with honors, confident in her abilities and proud of the journey she had taken. She had gained experience, skill, and most importantly, self-belief. The opportunities Jonathan had provided had not been handed to her as a gift, but as a challenge and a chance to prove herself. She had met that challenge with grace, diligence, and courage. Her story became an example for others, proof that talent, empathy, and determination could create life-changing opportunities when nurtured and recognized. Jonathan has often reflected on how small acts of kindness could create enormous ripple effects. A simple hug, a patient conversation, and genuine attention had started a chain of events that transformed multiple lives. He had hoped to help Lily, but the effect had been far greater. Ethan had grown, Lee had flourished, and even Jonathan himself had been reminded of the power of empathy, patience, and human connection. He realized that the greatest investments in life were not financial, they were personal, emotional, and relational. Lily never forgot the moment she met Jonathan and Ethan in the cafe, or the impact it had on her life. She often reflected on how someone had seen her for who she really was, not just what she could do, and had given her a chance to prove her worth. That moment had set her on a path she could never have imagined on her own. She carried that lesson forward, striving to recognize and uplift others whenever she could. Ethan, now more confident and outgoing, often spoke of Lily with admiration and gratitude. He knew that her kindness had changed him, and he carried that influence into his daily life, learning to be more empathetic, patient, and brave. Jonathan watched both of them grow, feeling a sense of fulfillment that wealth and success alone could never provide. He realized that the greatest rewards in life came from nurturing others, recognizing goodness, and helping people reach their potential. Years later, Lily became a nurse just as she had dreamed. But she did more than that. She continued to mentor, to guide, and to inspire others, creating a legacy of kindness and resilience. Her life had been transformed not just by opportunity, but by the recognition of her character and the trust placed in her by Jonathan. And Jonathan, looking back, knew that the moment he had watched her hug Ethan in that small cafe had been the beginning of something far greater than any business deal or philanthropic headline. It had been the start of a chain of life-changing events born from empathy, trust, and the courage to invest in someone's heart. In the end, Lily's story was a testament to the extraordinary power of simple human acts: a hug, smile, patience, and recognition. These small gestures, combined with opportunity and guidance, had created a lifetime of growth, confidence, and fulfillment. Jonathan, Ethan, and Lily had all been changed by the experience, and it served as a reminder that kindness, when genuine and recognized, can create ripples far beyond what anyone could imagine.